يعطيكم العافيه جميعا. نذكر بليز السوشيال ديستنس مهم جدا لعده اسباب، صحتكم بالدرجه الاولى. الشغله الثانيه بدنا نذكر فيها وقفتنا اليوم هي وقفه حزينه، وقفه موقف، وقفه دموع، وقفه دم بعده ما نشف بلبنان. فهيدي الرساله اللي رح نوصلها اليوم بالدرجه الاولى هي رساله نابعه من قلب الرماد يلي نفضته بيروت بسبب الفساد المتراكم بداخلها. وقفتنا اليوم وقفه تضامنيه رمزيه، كلنا بنعرف انه اللي عم يصير بلبنان بده جهود جباره، ولكن اقل ما يمكن نعمل اليوم هو هيدا الموقف. فعشان هيك الموقف الحزين والموقف المساند لبلدنا بحاجه نكون في مع بعض اليوم بعنوان بيروت وعنوان لبنان. وان شاء الله بالربع ساعه القادمه رح تسمعوا قصص معاناه، رح تسمعوا موقف مجموعه شبابيه، ورح تسمعوا ايضا اطلاق صرخات من اجل مبادرات كتار عم يقوموا فيها جمعيات، مؤسسات وشركات، وايضا الحكومه الامريكيه موجوده لتكون عم تتعاطى مع لبنان بطريقه افضل. ولكن باختصار اللي بدي اقوله حاليا وقفتنا اليوم هي وقفه حزينه، وقفه باسم الشمع، وعنوانها أن تضيء شمعة خير من أن تلعن الظلام.
Don't do it. I did it. Okay, don't do it. Don't do it. No. Now we know what fire
كان جمال رح نبلش على 8:15 يعني بعد 3 دقائق مع الغنية. إذا فينا كلنا نرفع أعلام لبنان لفوق، كل الفلاجز up please, all the flags up. Okay, we are going to start the program. We will get started with the American national anthem and then the Lebanese national anthem right after.
And the rock is red.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والسلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. أيها الإخوة والأخوات والأحبة، دعنا نقف دقيقة صمت حدادا على أرواح الشهداء، شهداء لبنان، كل لبنان. أكيد البروجرام راح يكون بالعربي وبالإنجليزي، في حدا راح يحكي بالإنجليزي right after this. في البداية نرحب بكم جميعا وشكرا لحضوركم، ونرحب بجميع الفعاليات السياسية والاجتماعية والإعلامية الحاضرة بيننا. أيها الحفل الكريم، نسأل الله الشفاء للجرحى وعودة المفقودين سالمين لعائلاتهم، وللبنان الخلاص والقيامة من جديد. إن الكلام يعجز عن الاستياء وعن الحزن وعن الاستغراب. إنها المرة الأولى التي نقتل فيها أبناءنا بأيدينا عمدا ومن دون يسعون إلى رزقهم لتأمين قوت عائلاتهم. قضوا بتقصير لا مبال ملتحف بغطاء متقاسم للسلطة. ماذا عسانا أن نقول سوى لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله. وطني يا وطني، تعلقنا بك من أن تنفسنا النفس الأول، ومنذ أن شربنا من مياهك ولم نبلغ الفطام. هجرناك مرغمين وبقيت في عقولنا وأرواحنا هناك في سماك وأرضك وهواك. لم نتركك في المحن ولن نتركك الآن. نحن أبناؤك، أبناء الجالية اللبنانية والعربية والأمريكية الكريمة والمعطاءة في ميشيغن، متكاتفين متعاضدين، سنقدم لك العون مهما يتطلب منا ذلك. وسنقوم مع حكومتنا بتقديم الدعم على المستوى الرسمي الأمريكي، ولم نألو جهدا ولن نهدأ حتى تعودوا يا جنوب ويا بقاع ويا فيحاء ويا جبل لبنان سادة في دولة أيقونتها بيروت. ستعودين يا بيروت يا ست الدنيا، ست الدنيا كما عرفناك وعرفك العالم بأسره. أيها الإخوة والأخوات، ما إن سمعنا بخبر التفجير في بيروت وإذا بخلايا الخيرين في هذه الجالية قد بدأوا بجمع التبرعات والمساعدات على أشكالها لأهلنا في لبنان. وبدأت مجموعة من الإخوة في بذل الجهود والعمل مع السياسيين المختصين هنا وفي واشنطن لتخصيص مساعدات مالية غذائية وطبية للوطن الجريح. بارك الله في جهودكم وأدامكم الله ذخرا للخير. شكرا لكم جميعا وشكرا لنخوتكم، والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Next, I would like to introduce our Wayne County Commissioner, Mr. Sam Baidoun, for a few words. There he is.
Thank you, Marwan. Assalamu alaikum, good evening. Lebanon is bleeding. We are bleeding. This Hiroshima-style explosion broke our hearts. We come together this evening as Lebanese Americans to stand united with our brothers and sisters back home in Lebanon. As an elected official, just want to tell you we had a couple meetings recently, earlier tonight and 2 days ago, and we are in contact with our members of Congress, and you will hear from my dear friend Congresswoman Dingell in a second here, and the members of Congress, Rashida Tlaib, our dear sister, and Congresswoman Dingell, Senator Peters. They're all going to be working through Congress in Washington, lobbying on behalf of Lebanon to to send financial aid, and she will fill you in on what transpired today. With that being said, I would like to introduce my dear friend, Congresswoman Debbie Dingell.
Good evening, everyone. All right, I'm Mama Dingell. Make sure your masks are on. They want me closer. I want you to be careful. First of all, my condolences to everyone who has family, neighbors, community in Lebanon. And there is no one in Lebanon that has not been impacted by what happened this week, nor anybody in the Dearborn community here who has not hurt for the country they love. This is a night that we come together in prayer and support and comfort for one another. It is also a week that I have been meeting with many of you from this community who want to help the country that they love. This is not a time for partisanship in this country. This is a time that, as Americans, we must reach out to the Lebanese, the people of Lebanon, to help them at this critical time. Today, we sent a letter. It's now more than 100 signatures by members of Congress, bipartisan, to the State Department saying that urgently we must support aid to Lebanon. Tuesday night, Wednesday night, last night, I have been meeting with members of this community, leaders who are desperately seeking ways to help. The first thing they said to me is America must send aid. And I had talked to the ambassador to the United States from Lebanon, to the White House and to the State Department, and they had assured me aid was on the way, and the first American plane landed today in Lebanon. There are 2 more on the way. And the President of the United States, I will not be partisan tonight, in his remarks said we must help the people of Lebanon. These are humanitarian needs. People are hurt. They don't know where family members are. Their homes have been destroyed or badly damaged. They need medical help, and the food supply has been destroyed. We need immediate humanitarian aid to Lebanon. And so I'm working with many of the leaders who are here and others, the ambassador, the State Department, USAID, that we all want to do something. We all want to help this country that so many of you have friends and neighbors and family in. We must make sure that any contribution goes to legitimate NGOs and nonprofits to help the people that they need. So I stand with you. I'm very proud to call you my family, my community. And I heard with you tonight in what happened. And I stand with all of you in ensuring we get aid and we ensure that aid that is humanitarian aid that is raised go to those who need it most. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Congresswoman Debbie Dingell. Thank you, Commissioner Sam Baidoun. Thank you so much, Congresswoman Debbie Dingell, for everything that you do here and in Washington. Next, we have our friend and our activist, Ms. Mashadiya Asi.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. مساء الحزن
الحزن اللي مجبول بالأمل، مسا الحرية، مسا الكرامة. من ديربون لبيروت كرامتنا ما بتموت. As a Lebanese American, as a proud Lebanese American, I first want to thank all our non-Lebanese American friends who came here to support us tonight. Thank you. You are our sisters and brothers in humanity. We appreciate your presence. Our physical bodies are present here in our immigrated country, but our hearts are aching with our loved people in Lebanon. Our minds are shattered into pieces when trying to visualize how the broken pieces of Beirut got destroyed and put into shattered pieces of glasses. There was over 135 people were killed and over 5,000 injured. There is not one apartment in Beirut that wasn't impacted. Not one business that wasn't impacted. The explosion in Beirut, which has been declared as a disaster city, will only pile more pressure on the economy. We refuse to describe the explosion in Beirut as a human accident. The only fair way is to describe this tragedy as a political, moral, economic, and financial crisis whose first victim is the Lebanese population. We all know that a candle vigil like this doesn't do anything to the Lebanese people's struggle. We all know this. But let's all call it a candlelight struggle or a candlelight revolution, a symbolic collective gathering to demand accountability and justice for all the lives lost, for all the injured, the displaced people, in our beautiful city, Beirut, that was damaged and broken into pieces, that hurt more than the billions of broken glasses. Today's stand is like a catalyst to motivate the change, as well as uniting our voices. I know that our voices are different political opinions, but let's unite them all into one mono-thinking, seeking justice and truth. The Lebanese people, regarding of their diverse political and religion aspect, they are worried about seeking that justice because corruption in the administration of justice endangers the basic right for knowing the truth and hindering the truth and hold accountable the people in charge of the crime. In the past year, a breakdown in the country's banking system and skyrocketing inflation had triggered mass protests. Even before the COVID pandemic hit, the World Bank projected that 45% of people in Lebanon would be below poverty in 2020. It is an economic crisis, a financial crisis, a political crisis, a health crisis, and now this horrible explosion. But the never-ending tragedy is that Lebanon is not the result of the random doing of destiny. The Lebanese people have long suffered as a consequence of the action and behavior of venal, incompetent individuals. The Lebanese people have long suffered as a consequence of action and behavior of venal, incompetent individuals, of power-hungry politicians, business people, and shadowy figures, and of geopolitical actors who have made the country their plaything at the expense of good governance. So it's not surprising that the explosion immediately ignited a storm of speculation and suspicion. What and who caused it? Who caused the disaster? Everyone wants to know. I'm I'm absolutely not talking politics. I am talking human rights, human dignity, and the dignity of dead and injured people in Lebanon to find truth. It's time to stop normalizing and orientalizing tragedy in the Middle East. The recent tragedy in Lebanon is not something normal that Lebanese want to get used to it because it is a Middle Eastern country. Unlike media, what media often projects, the Middle East is not a land of bombs and constant terror. Some people might ask, why are we bringing corruption at a candle vigil? Because the explosion that occurred this week is just a symptom, a large, achy symptom of a deep disease rooted in the Lebanese non-humanitarian government system that is rooted for decades, way before I was even born. The effect of corruption permeates every corner of public life in Lebanon. Corruption in Lebanon is manifesting at different ways which undermine the sustainable development of Lebanese humans. The lack of transparency, the ugly sectarianism, the outdated legislation, centralization, insufficient access to resource, all of this is a worry of Lebanese people and are still getting richer. The rich people are getting richer and the poor are getting more poor. And human rights in Lebanon are suffering tonight, yesterday, and tomorrow. Enough is enough. The explosion that occurred this week is the cherry on top of the accumulated series of struggles rooted in that corruption. Corruption in Lebanon became the normalized standard. It is the time to criminalize Lebanese corruption instead of normalize the non-humanitarian system. Enough is enough. Thank you.
أما الآن نبقى مع قصص مؤثرة تنقل الواقع اللبناني بفساده وأزمته تقدمها من المجموعة الشبابية على رأسهم الأخ والصديق عباس حاج أحمد.
يعني كلنا شفنا صورة الأم يلي عم تتنقل بين مستشفى لمستشفى وعم تقول ابني حلو، عيونه عسلية، حدا شافه، للأسف ما حدا شافه. كلنا سمعنا قصة علي مشاك يلي يوميته 25,000 ليرة لبنانية، رجع ليشتغل ويطلع على الساعة 5,000 ليرة لبنانية، يلي هي إذا بنحسبها معاش الشهري يمكن ما يطلع حق سيجار كان يشربه بدر الظاهر وأمثاله. ما في شيء ممكن ينقل حجم فساد هيدي السلطة الحاكمة أكثر من قصص المعاناة، قصص الأم والبي والابن، التابع والمحزب والمش محزب واقف اليوم وعم بيشوف انه اللي صار حجمه كبير ما بينسكت عنه. لذلك قصصنا اليوم رح تكون من هيدا الواقع، لانه ما في شيء بينقل الصوره، ما في شيء بيستاهل نقله اليوم اكثر من هيدا الواقع. رح نحكي بالعاميه اللبنانيه ورح نحكي باللغه الانجليزيه ورح نبلش مع الركيب الاول السابق بفوج اطفاء بيروت يلي درب وربى المجموعة يلي استشهدت بطريقة فظيعة جدا. خالد طرابلسي، صور الموجودة هون رح يحكي عنها ورح ينقل اللي لازم ينقل للجالية الموجودة بالولايات المتحدة.
يعطيكم العافية. الصورة اللي حاطتها بقلب هالخريطة وصورة هالشباب هي مش بالصدفة. هيدول الشباب هن رفقاتي بفوج اطفاء بيروت، رفقاتي اللي حرقوا لي قلبي. الله يحرق قلب اكبر زعيم فيهم. كل واحد عارف بهالخطر وتركهم. هيدول الأولاد برقبتكم، دمهم برقبتكم. خلص بقى، هيدا مش أول يوم. شربل عنده بنتين، رامي عنده بنت ومرته حامل بصبي. يا بلا شرف، سحر عروس بدها تنقل بعد سنة الجاي. خزامي بعده خاطب بده ينقل. هدول شباب، هو زهرة لبنان. هيدول مستقبل لبنان. لا خليته مستقبل ولا خليته شيء. شو ذنب الاطفاء اللي نازل؟ بلغوه قالوا له في خطر 1 2 3 رايح لتموت انت. بعتون على الموت. لموهن شقف، ما حدا بيعرف بالوجع. لموهن شقف، لموهن دايبين عشان قدركم. لموا جزاميهم مشقفه، ثيابهم مشقفه. سيارة الأطفائية لحد اليوم بعدها مدمولة، بعد ما وصلوا لها. لكيف بدهم يوصلوا لها؟ كيف بدكم توصلوا لبر الأمان؟ هالأرزة رح تضل على راسنا، وهالصوت رح يوصل لآخر الدنيا. مش رح نترككم، فنضل حاطين الأرزة على راسنا. شرب الكرم، رامي كعكي، خزامي، شمو، سحر والأبطال رفقاتكم. الله يرحمكم، الله يرحمكم، والله لا يرحم كل مسؤول عارف فيكم. مش بس هيدول الشهداء، هيدول رفقاتي واخواتي عم بحكي عنهم. بس في 150 لحد هلا والرقم عم يتصاعد. في 300,000 هومليس. من ورا مين؟ من وراي انا؟ من ورا هالشباب؟ من وراكم؟ من ورا مين؟ ليش نحن هون بالغربة؟ ليش تغربنا؟ انا خدمت 21 سنة بالاطفائية وتركت بلدي والدمعة بعيني. رجعتوا حرقتونا من اول وجديد. حرقتوا بيروت عاصمتنا للعالم كله بيتغنى فيها. حرقتوا قلب الامهات. طلعوا شو عم بيصير. خلص بقى، حقنا نقول خلص. حلوا عنا بدنا نعيش. ليك تركنا البلد لنيجي لهون. بس إلنا أهل، إلنا إخوة، إلنا قرايب، إلنا أحباب، إلنا رفقة. لك هيدول الشباب نايم أنا وياهم، عرقان أنا وياهم، مجروح أنا وياهم. شو بعد فيه؟ ما بدي أزعل عليهم. أنا مقهور أكيد، وقد قهري مش حتكون قد قهر أمه لشربل، ولا أمه لرامي، ولا مرته، ولا بنته اللي حتربى عمرها 2 بعد شوي. حتقلها لماما لأمها وين بابا؟ بتقلها مات. حتقلها كيف مات؟ بس توعى حتقلها كيف مات؟ احكي لي قصته لبي. شو بدها تقلها أمها؟ بتقلها كم حرامي بالبلد سرقوا البلد، ما كفيهم سرقة، حرقوا البلد. خلص بقى، ارحمونا. والله يرحم الشهداء ويرحم اللي ماتوا، والله يعافي الجرحى، والله يعافي لبنان. شكرا.
خالد، يعني ما في شيء ممكن يعبر عن حجم اللي عم يصير بلبنان اكثر من كلمات خالد. نقل اسماء 10، في غيرهم اكثر من 150. في قصص من كل المناطق اللبنانيه من شماله لجنوبه. سمعنا هلا قصه خالد اللي هو ابن دار الزهراني. ما نسمع ايضا مع انه العاميه اللبنانيه هي اكثر لغه ممكن تعبر عن وجعنا اليوم، ما ننقل بعض القصص ايضا باللغه الانجليزيه، لانه في ناس وفي اعلام حابين ننقل لهم الصوره مع بنت راس بيروت وقصصها مع فرح عفره.
Hello everyone. I know everyone here is living through a collective trauma, and this seems to be something that has become very normal to everyone from West Asia and North Africa, i.e. the Middle East, but I don't want to use a colonialist term, so West Asia and North Africa. I will be recounting 2 stories. One is of a young man who was in Ashrafiyeh in Jamaize, actually, when the explosion took place. And another is from an expat here in the US. And I'm sure you have a lot of family and friends back home who can resonate with the first one, and you here yourself resonate with the second. So I'm gonna start with the story of Jonathan Dagher. He said, I was in the back of an Uber headed from Jamaize to Madam Khayel at 6:10 p.m. The driver had the windows rolled down, which probably saved us. As we approached International Pub, we heard a loud hissing sound from the sky. Cars stopped. Waiters peeked out of the windows of the bar. People stood on their balconies. This was probably the most terrifying moment. Everyone could tell that something bad, really, really bad, was coming. The sky doesn't just start hissing. And then it came. First, a loud thundering roar as the ground shook. Then silence. Then another roar, and the shockwave hit us. Everything went white. I remember a whirlwind of dust and debris and sound. I ducked in the back seat of the cab, like in the movies, and my only thought was, not like this. I don't know how else to explain it, but it felt like the entire world was ending, like every building on earth was crashing down and the sky had fallen. In those few seconds, I remembered every newspaper headline from every explosion I've ever witnessed in Lebanon. My worst fear was that I'd find myself in a blast radius one day. I imagine we all live in that constant dread here. And there we were. As the blast died down, a thick fog of dust replaced it. From the cab, we could only hear silence, a ringing noise, and then screams. I saw walls collapsed, rock and glass everywhere, people covered in blood, standing in shock. They will bomb us again, someone screamed. Panic hit. People ran and screamed and cried. I grabbed my backpack over my head and ran into International, the pub. I remember seeing an Uno card on the floor. Once inside, I hid under the bar. Never in my wildest imagination could I ever imagine terror such as this. That the blast had occurred hundreds of meters away was unthinkable. I called my parents, I called my friends. I am alive, I told them. Us too, they told me. Why would they tell me that? Was the entire country getting bombed? I don't really remember what happened next. I took a few videos because I felt like I had to. I had climbed over debris, checking over injured people, but the bar was empty. I checked the bathrooms, washed my face, considering hiding out. I saw water bottles and a fridge and people screaming outside, and I figured out the rest. I ran into friends and faces I know, covered in blood. We calmed one another down. We tried to help. We panicked. We hid under stairs, waiting for another blast. Someone offered a ride to the hospital, but the hospital was full. I wanted to ask my friends if anyone we knew had died, but I was afraid to ask. I saw a mother with 4 kids, a dad with a toddler, 2 old people passed out in a car, things I want to forget. I kept trying not to cry. I remember the kindness of strangers, the little looks of empathy we gave one another, but I also remember the absolute rage I felt. Rage that is possibly more massive than the blast itself. I didn't know what the catastrophe was, but I knew it was man-made. How can so much be destroyed all at once? But the destruction is nothing new. Every day, the people who took this country hostage destroy us a bit more. Yesterday's nuclear explosion, the result of ammonium nitrate thrown in the Beirut port, was just the logical criminal continuation of that. Everything was leading to this. This morning, I woke up in panic to the sound of a truck next to my window. It reminded me of the hissing from the sky. We are far from being okay, but we are alive and well, and for that we are lucky. I can only pray for those who are still missing, for those fighting for life at the hospitals, for those still looking for a hospital. My heart goes out to all those who lost someone in the blast. If there's any way we can help, please let us know. I don't know if we will ever get justice for this, for everything. I really don't know if we will, but I promise you, we will die trying. The next story is from someone at least the young generation knows very well. It's from Hamid Sinno, who is the lead singer of Mashru'a Layla, which is probably the most famous band in the Arab world. Hamid Sinno says, I left Beirut a year and some change ago. Soon after, I moved to New York. Beirut slammed the door behind me with a concert cancellation, a defamation campaign orchestrated by the president's political party, and an arrest warrant in my name at the airport. I decided I would never look back. Then October came. My people were finally on the streets demanding dignity. Everything I ever fought for was on protest banners. It was finally happening. I started imagining that I'd one day return and buy property in Lebanon to build a house for the children I'd adopt with my partner. I would live outside of Beirut, but visit every weekend to make music with comrades and laugh as they drank and shared life. I reminded myself not to look back, but I was fully planning my future. Whenever anything happens in Lebanon, our bodies automatically revert to war mode. Even those of us who didn't live through the Civil War inherited this trauma by watching our parents screaming at us to get away from windows whenever they heard fireworks, or keeping emergency bags ready should we need to make a fast exit to our bomb shelters, or by seeing them react to the various smaller wars, assassinations and explosions that happened throughout the 90s and the 2000s. It's infuriating to see how well trained we are to deal with disaster. Everything stops. The mind goes quiet. Yet an inventory of everyone you need to check on. And you start calling them one by one. I bet every single one of you did the same. I know I did. I called my mother, and then I called my father, and my father would not pick up. As they said, I'm from Ras Beirut. I'm from Hamra. My father did not pick up for 30 minutes, and when he finally did, I went off at him. And I know that many others did the same. I will leave the floor to the others. And these stories are just a sample of many, many stories and of the collective trauma we all live through. I really hope we get to witness a better Lebanon that we will build ourselves, we the expats with the young generation of Lebanon. Have a good night.
شكرا فرح العنور. قصص عم تنتقل من جنوب لبنان لبيروت، بس بليز بدنا نذكر بالماسك لانه نحن عم نشيلهم لنحكي. بليز يعني هذا القانون ما نلتزم فيه، والدرجه الاولى هيدي صحتنا. قبل ما ننتقل لا في ماسك هون اذا حدا ما معه ماسك بليز. قبل ما ننتقل لمرحله تضوية الشمع في عنا قصص ثانيه. في قصه صغيره بدنا ننقلها باسم عصام العزير ابن بعلبك.
مرحبا جميعا. انا قصتي بلشت من 5 سنين لما قررت اترك لبنان واجي على امريكا. حسيت انه وقتها الحزن بيولد كبير وبيصغر مثل ما قامونا، بس قصتي كانت مختلفه. حزني ولد صغير وكبر بعده هون. لبنان انا فكرت تركته ضحك، بس عايش معي بيومياتي مع اولادي، بعيون اولادي، بعيونكم. نحن مفكرونا مهاجرين، نحن لا، مشردين. واللي شردنا ضرب بيروت، وبيروت هي امي مثل ما هي امكم. واللي ضرب امي بده يدفع ثمنها مين ما كان يكون، سواء كان بالسلطه التشريعيه او التنفيذيه او الامنيه. شكرا.
Can I have your attention, everyone, please? We are going to send a beautiful message to the people of Lebanon, all the way from Michigan, USA to Beirut, Lebanon. Would you please raise your flag and your lights? We are going to wave to the people of Lebanon. الشهداء وإن شاء الله عقبال الفرج للجنة.
On your phone and put them up. Turn on the lights
lights on your phone and put your phone up and let's wave like that, please. Let's send the message to Beirut.
الموقف شمعة الموسيقى بيوصلوا رسالة، ولكن الرسالة الأكبر رح يوجهها المواطن اللبناني بالأيام القادمة. عبوقع في مظاهرة كبيرة بلبنان، وأيضا المحاسبة الرسمية عم تصير والضغط الشعبي عم يكبر، ولكن دورنا الرئيسي بالدعم لازم يزيد بالأيام القادمة. وأكيد اليوم وقفتنا هي وقفة تضامنية رمزية، النقاش والتحضيرات قادمة والشغل قادم بالأيام الجاية. القصص ما انتهت، القصص بلشت مع ابن دار الزهراني، انتقلت لبنت راس بيروت ورجعت لابن بعلبك، وهلا بدنا نكمل على الساحل اللبناني. هيدا الساحل يلي تلقى هيدي الضربة القاسية. بدنا نكون مع بنت سور، مع الصبية الناشطة مريم عكنان.
ما رح اطول عليكم كثير. اوكي، في اسماء كثير اذا بدنا نقعد نذكرهم اليوم ما بس سامر الحلبي وعلي محمد الحق.
هو الشخصين اللي ذكرتهم اليوم الله يرحمهم، هو الشخصين اللي ذكرتهم اليوم هدول هن كانوا شهداء، ولكن ما كانوا شهداء فقط لصار. And bear with me if I flip between English and Arabic. I wasn't prepared for a speech. I didn't have time because we were organizing to actually send donations. So I'm gonna be flipping, but it's okay. Maybe you'll understand me more. So these two men, unfortunately, died because of that socioeconomic situation that was happening in Lebanon. And it's interesting because it took a whole explosion. That's the third largest explosion in the human history for everyone to see that there is a human disaster, while for months people were living in poverty, inflation, and more. So this new thing that we're hearing today is a reality that we lived our whole life. And those who grew up in Lebanon know what it feels like and know what it means to be surrounded by this reality every day. Now what can we do? I really just want to say, what can we do? Everybody's here and this is amazing, this is beautiful, and everybody in Lebanon wants to see that. كل اللبنانيين اليوم بدهم يشوفوا هالشيء أكيد. ولكن اليوم موضوع مختلف، اليوم موضوع منه وقفة بس ضد الحكومة، اليوم في قضية إنسانية متواجدة عنا، في عنا أكبر قضية بالعالم اللي عايشينه، لدرجة كل ال NGOs وال IGOs بلشوا يحكوا بالموضوع، حتى الكونغرس عم يحكي، شيء كتير حلو رائع. ولكن نحن كمغتربين اليوم كيف فينا نشتغل بنفس الوقت نكفي هالوقفات التضامنية ونوصل صوتنا. اولا عن جد عم بيصير في كتير حملات وتبرعات، ما بعرف اللي بديربون هايتس يمكن سمعوا باول حمله بلشت. One of our friends, his name is Majd, he's a medical student at Oakland University. Some of you might know him, some of you might not, some of you might have donated, some of you might have not. He started this GoFundMe not just 3 days ago, he started this GoFundMe a month and a half ago. And he started it because of the medical situation that was happening, because the fact that marginalized hospitals in the area didn't have places to test for COVID. So he worked with the World Relief Program to actually send those medical stuff there. The donation was facing a little bit of struggle at first, but in one day, after the explosion, Majd was able to raise $35,000 to $40,000 to actually send those equipment. This is exactly what is needed, because when we do not have equipment in a humanitarian crisis, I don't think we will be able to help them. The same thing. كل يوم عم نسأل الأشخاص اللي على الأرض اليوم جمعيات شو فينا نساعد. اليوم شغلتين أساسية نحن نقدر نساعد فيهم، بما إنه ما بنقدر نبعت أكل وهذا موضوع تاني بده ينحكى فيه. بده يتفتش على الجمعيات اللي عن جد عندها مصداقية وقادرة تبعت money so people can actually buy these food, buy these boxes. There are non-government organizations that are actually working on the ground, and I know we have trust issues in the region, and I get it, we don't trust anybody and we do not want to send to this and this because we don't have accountability, but it's okay to ask and it's okay to read, and don't just like put it as an image. There are civil society and there are youth that are working there. Speaking of that too, like there is the shelter part. If you see videos, if you see how detrimental that explosion was. So how many here were in Lebanon at all in 2006? Cool, couple of you, amazing. So you probably know what it feels like to hear a bomb. You probably know what it feels like to actually feel a shake. And we all did. But we all know that even though a bomb was like probably 3 miles away, it didn't affect us at all. So just imagine that the airport was even hit. Just imagine that how intense was that. So obviously there is also shelter that needs to be built. When I heard my dad telling me today هاي ذكرتني بالحرب الأهلية، هيدي كانت مدمرة. There's so much trauma that we carry, as they said. And these kids today are gonna carry that trauma. And we don't want that. And that's why we need to help. Look and ask in the community. Ask how you can help. Ask the community out there, your cousins, your family, your friends, the people that are out there. What do you need? How can we help? Do not just put these. I'm sorry, I have to say it. I'm angry. And I'm sure you all are, but ask them, what do you need? How can we help? And it's okay. Because we are here, but we have no idea what's happening down there. Or we are not the people that are, we are suffering, don't get me wrong. We're sad. My friends are crying. I was crying. But no matter how bad I feel, I can't know what exactly they need. And I know my friends and I and a lot of Lebanese youth experts started an NGO and we registered it as a 501c, and this was like a month and a half ago. But because of what happened now in Lebanon, we escalated everything. And you might be able to see it on your feed on Facebook or Instagram. Thank you.
مريم، الحكي الصادق، شكرا على هذا الحكي الصادق. وايضا عنوان جريده السفير ايام الاجتياح كان بيروت تحترق ولا ترفع الاعلام البيضاء باسم الجرايد اللبنانيه. مبنى جريده النهار كان عم يتدمر. بنت جريده النهار الاستاذه الجمعيه والصحفيه زينب عساف رح تنقلنا القصه الاخيره لليوم وقصصنا رح نرجع من جديد نكتبها ان شاء الله سويا من ديربون لبيروت. تفضلي زينب.
مساء الخير للجميع. يعني فعلا كلنا متأثرين، بس رح احاول احكي بسرعة يعني، وسامحوني بدي امزج شوي العامية مع اللغة الفصحى. هيدي الكلمة اللي كتبتها بعنوان لا تغمضوا أعينكم. قالت أمي وهي تغالب الدمع: يا حرام هالبنت الصغيرة يلي ماتوا أهلها. كانوا المسعفين عم يقولوا لها غمضي عيونك، غمضي عيونك حتى ما يجي فيهم رمل. هل نغمض عيوننا جميعا؟ كم مرة؟ وإن فعلنا هل تعودي يا بيروت؟ الشاعر الصديق فيدال سبيتي كتب بعد عودته إلى المدينة: حاسس مثل يلي رايح يشوف حبيبته هي وبكوما، مش عارف إذا هي رح تعرفني أو أنا رح أعرفها. حين حاولت جمع قصص الانفجار في بيروت لم أحظى سوى بشظايا الزجاج المتطاير التي جرحت أصابعي وقلبي. لا يمكن حصر القصص. نكتب عن الموت نحن المتمرسون حربا بعد حرب، لكنه كان موتا سريعا هذه المرة، لم يسمح حتى بفكرة أخيرة. حين أتذكر أيامي في جريدة النهار التي دمرها الانفجار، وكيف كنت مع زميلتي نزرع الطرقات ذهابا وإيابا بين وسط البلد والجميزة لنأكل شي أندري الوجبة الأرخص وهي شوربة العدس، أو أن ننتظر سيرفيس الحمراء على طريق المرفأ. حين أذكر ذلك لا أعرف هل أبكي أو أضحك، لكن أعرف بأن حياتي مجانية كحياة كل لبناني ولبنانية، وستبقى كذلك طالما نحن نغمض أعيننا بدل أن نحاسب. رجاء لا تغمضوا أعينكم هذه المرة. I just want to say the same thing in English for English speakers, and then it's don't close your eyes. My mom was trying not to cry when she said, "Did you see the little girl whom they saved after her family was killed?" The rescue team was telling her, "Close your eyes so you don't get sand in them." Should we all close our eyes? How many times? And if we do, will our city come back? While trying to collect stories from Beirut, I felt like my hand was injured. There was just one voice, the crushed glasses. What can we write about death? We, trained by death, war after war, This time it was so fast that we didn't have time to have a last thought. I remember my days in An-Nahar newspaper, located just behind Beirut port. I remember how a co-worker and I used to go back and forth in that exact area where I saw the bodies flying like butterflies after the explosion. Should I cry or laugh? I don't know, but I know one thing. My life is gratis. Every Lebanese life is, as long as we just close our eyes and we don't hold accountable the responsible. Please don't close your eyes this time. Thank you.
يا أمي الحنوني حرقتي قلبي حرقتي جفوني حقا مستفجيني قتل ناس وحرق بيوت كل عام وانت بخير عايدوك يا بيروت شفت تفجيرك بعيوني انت يا أمي الحنوني حرقتي قلبي حرقتي جفوني حرام هالناس تموت حرام هالناس تموت هيدا مش تفجير قتل ناس وحرق بيوت كل عام وانت بخير عايدوك يا بيروت شفت تفجيرك بعيوني انت يا امي الحنوني حرقتي قلبي حرقتي جفوني حرام هالناس تموت حرام هالناس تموت.
خلونا نجرب كلنا سوا نغني النشيد الوطني اللبناني، كلنا سوا مع بعض مع اللايتس والأعلام لو سمحتوا.
And just before we leave and before we end our program tonight, I think we owe it to our beloved people that we lost, that lost their lives in Lebanon, with Surah Al-Fatiha and some prayers with the Honorable Sheikh Muhammad Ali Ilahi. فَيَتَفَضَّل. Yes, also we would like to thank the Dearborn Police for their effort, and let's make sure we clean after ourselves, and thank you very much.
Prayer is powerful. Love is powerful. Hope is powerful. Brotherhood and benevolence, powerful. Prayer for beautiful city of Beirut. Prayer for the loving land of Lebanon. It is tragic. It is heartbreaking. It is burning for all of us, Muslims and Christians. But we believe in the power of dignity of prayer and power of people in Lebanon. We want to tell to those who think that during this crisis they can break Lebanon, that they are wrong. Yes, there is crisis of corona, crisis of currency, crisis of corruption. But people of Lebanon, they stay strong and dignified because they believe in hayhat minna dhillah, hayhat minna dhillah. So those politicians who think that they can go to Beirut and humiliate our people, they are wrong. No ultimatum to Lebanese people. They have gone through this many, many times. Nobody can break the determination, the faith, the loyalty, and the love of Lebanese people. We pray for them. Yes, they are going through pain. They are in need of food and medicine and clothes and accommodation. But their faith, their hope, their love will survive. And we pray for them, brothers and sisters, at this time of prayer. But in addition to peace and prayer, we must act and we must put on faith and our prayer in practice. This is why we as religious organizations in Dearborn area have been meeting during this week to put our efforts together, donation together. We need to send money, we need to send medicine, we need to send clothes, we need to support all those organizations that they are working in the scene. And inshallah we are going to send a delegation with all these contributions to Lebanon. We need your support through any organization that you trust, whether House of Wisdom, other Islamic centers, other organizations. Let us show our solidarity, our support, our understanding, our empathy with people of Lebanon in action. So let us pray. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. اللهم يا راحم الفقراء والمساكين. And we know that this prayer is Islamic, Christian, any faith, anyone who believes in God believes in this prayer. ويا مجيب دعوة المضطرين ويا ناصر المستضعفين ويا مجير الخائفين ويا مغيث المكروبين. اللهم إنا نسألك بأهل خاصتك من ملائكتك والصالحين من بيتك أن تجعل لشعبنا في لبنان وفي كل مكان واقية تنجينا وتنجيهم من الهلكات وتجنبنا وتجنبهم من الآفات. اللهم أنزل من سكينتك. اللهم إنا نسألك أن تنزل علينا من سكينتك وتغشي وجوهنا بأنوار محبتك وتحوينا بأصناف اسمتك برأفتك ورحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. Oh God, please bless Beirut and Lebanon and their people. Bless them with unity. Oh God, don't let the evil forces to abuse this opportunity and to try to destroy the unity, the brotherhood, the solidarity of our people. Keep them united and keep them with hope to continue to build Beirut much more beautiful than the past. We know for sure beautiful city of Beirut will born again, survive again, stronger than ever and more blessed than ever. That is our prayer, and you are the answer. The youth, the young generation, the brothers and sisters who organize this beautiful gathering, God bless them. And all of you beautiful faces of faith and friendship and force of determination, you are the answer. You are the solution. Continue your path with your prayer, with your determination, with your discipline, and you will win this war, inshallah, soon. Let us, Brother Muhammad, recite Surah Al-Fatiha. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين.
وليد اوكي، تشكرنا الكل بس نسينا نشكر اكيد انتم كلكم بنتشكركم لوجودكم معنا، بس اكيد كمان بدناش ننسى الطاقم الاعلامي والاعلاميين اللي كانوا موجودين معنا اليوم. نتشكر موقع بنت جبال، موقع ديربون.org، امريكانا راديو ان تي في، تلفزيون الجديد، فوكس 2، WXYG شانل 7، شانل 4، موقع شو الاخبار، ويب تي في، كل الاعلاميين، الاعلاميه ربيعه جوهري كانت هون، الاعلاميه حنان سكيف، كل الاعلاميين، كل المؤسسات الاعلاميه اللي اجوا غطوا الايفنت، شكرا لكم من القلب. انتوا اللي بتنقلوا الكلمه وانتوا اللي بتنقلوا الحقيقه، ونحن بنكبر بكل واحد فيكم موجود هون. كمان بديش انسى الاعلامي قاسم دغمين كمان موجود معنا، فشكرا لكم جميعا، تصبحونا على الف خير. شكرا لكم كلكم. خلينا نفرجي وجه لبنان الحضاري، خلينا ننظف ورانا قبل ما نفل. شكرا لكم.
من هون ما منفل حصرهم بعين الكل، هالأرض بدنا نضل لو بقيت 5 بيوت. من هون ما منفل حصرهم بعين الكل، هالأرض بدنا نضل لو بقيت 5 بيوت.
وحده خلاني على أرضي وحاماني، من هيك بنغني ومن الأمن فيه بنحيي الجيش اللبناني.
الله يشفي كل الجرح، إن شاء الله كلنا بنروح على بلادنا معززين مكرمين.
وين حاجة تقدم شوية بعد حاجة.
بس المشغيل اللي بيروت بس. المشغيل اللي بيروت. حط العلم. بيروت ردا وسلاما لن ولن تموت بيروت، ستنهض بيروت من تحت الركام وتعود إلى الحياة وأجمل ما كانت وأجمل ما كانت لتبقى عروسة المدائن. قومي يا بيروت لا يليك بك الحزن، رغم سنين الغربة بقيت أرواحنا هناك مع أهلنا مع أحبائنا، قلوبنا معكم يا أهلنا وأحبتنا، مع عوائل الشهداء والجرحى والمفقودين. لبيروت
من قلبي سلام لبيروت وقبل للبحر والبيوت. الرحمة للشهداء والشفاء العاجل للجرحى ومع العمل في العثور على كافة المفقودين. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله. شكرا جزيلا. هي مرة
لا